As Hamas remains in breach of the ceasefire agreement, the U.S. military has released footage showing the terror group is looting aid meant for Palestinian civilians. Hamas is denying the charges despite the act all being caught on camera. The latest in the following report. U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, released a video showing Hamas terrorists looting humanitarian aid meant for Palestinian civilians in Khan Younis. The U.S.-led Civil Military Coordination Center, or CMCC, obtained the footage by a U.S. aerial drone conducting surveillance over Gaza and shows terrorists attacking the driver of a truck and stealing the aid. The driver's current status remains unknown. Hamas has denied the charges. CENTCOM said that over the past week, international partners have delivered more than 600 trucks of commercial goods and aid into Gaza daily. Over the weekend, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the U.S. Armed Forces, General Dan Kane, visited Israel as the official guest of the Chief of the General Staff, Eyal Zamir. During the visit, the General and the Chief of General Staff held a joint situational assessment during which they discussed regional challenges, focusing primarily on the situation in Gaza and future challenges in both nearby and distant arenas. Meanwhile, taking the opportunity while speaking at an IDF officers course graduation ceremony at the Combat Officers Training School at Bad 1, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel will not give up on achieving total victory, and if it has to, will do it alone.
אנחנו מחליטים ואנחנו פועלים ככל שצריך להסיר סכנה מיידית לכוחותינו. אנחנו מחליטים ואנחנו פועלים. בסופו של יום, החמאס יפורק מנשקו ועזה תפורז. אם כוחות זרים יעשו זאת, מה טוב. ואם הם לא יעשו זאת, אנחנו נעשה זאת.
And Hamas has reportedly found the remains of 3 more hostages, according to a report in Arab Al Arabiya media. The area where the terror group searched for and claimed to have found the bodies is on the Israeli side of the Yellow Line. Israel is reportedly preparing to receive the bodies tonight. And in the meantime, the remains of 2 Israeli hostages, 84-year-old Amiram Cooper and 25-year-old Sahar Baruch, were returned to Israel late last week, bringing closure to their families after years of uncertainty. Then on Friday night, Hamas handed over additional remains that Israeli authorities say do not belong to any hostages still held in Gaza. ILTV correspondent India Naftali has more for us. India, can you break this all down for us?
Lidar, it's been more than 2 years since the Hamas massacre that began this war. And for 2 families, the wait to bring their loved ones home is finally over. But even as the remains of Amiram Cooper and Sahar Baruch return to Israel, the whereabouts of the 11 others remain unknown. The caskets were received inside Gaza by IDF troops, draped in Israeli flags, and escorted to the Abu Kabir Forensic Institute in Tel Aviv for identification. Amiram Cooper, who was an economist, poet, and one of the founders of Kibbutz Nir Oz, was kidnapped with his wife Norit on October 7th. She was released weeks later. He was murdered in captivity. Sahar Baruch, a young engineering student from Kibbutz Be'eri, was killed during a failed rescue attempt in December 2023. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum said that the return provides some measure of comfort for the family after 2 years of unbearable uncertainty. And last night in Tel Aviv, at a rally for the still remaining hostages in Gaza, family members of the deceased hostages spoke out.
איתי שלנו ועוד 10 חטופים הם לא גופות, הם בני אדם עם שמות, פנים, משפחות וחלומות, שנלקחו בכוח ועדיין חיים בלב של כולנו. המלחמה הזו לא תסתיים עד שכל החטופים חוזרים הביתה.
On Friday, Hamas handed over the partial remains of the 3 additional individuals via the Red Cross. Israeli forensic experts determined they were not hostages. Israel says Hamas continues to stall in returning the remaining bodies, despite the terms of the ceasefire. But amid the sorrow, there are signs of hope. Former hostage Ebitar David, once seen in a Hamas video starving and forced to dig his own grave, was seen eating a burger and removing his hostage photos from his family's car. And Alon Ohel, a pianist held for 737 days, returned to the stage, performing on the piano for one of Israel's most famous TV programs, Eretz Nehederet. For the families of Cooper and Baruch, the long wait has ended, but for many others, the struggle goes on. Israel says it remains committed to bringing back every captive, living or deceased. Back to you, Lidar.
Thank you, India, for the report. And moving on now to the northern front, which is heating up. Israel struck southern Lebanon, eliminating Hezbollah terrorists as Defense Minister Katz accused the Lebanese president of dragging his feet. The latest in the following report. The IDF confirmed Sunday morning it struck and eliminated 4 terrorists from Hezbollah's Radwan Force. In a statement, the army said that last night, under the leadership of Northern Command and using the Air Force, the IDF struck the Ramman area in southern Lebanon and eliminated the head of logistics support for Hezbollah's Radwan Force in the area. The IDF said the terrorists facilitated the transfer of combat means and engaged in attempts to rehabilitate Hezbollah's terror infrastructure in the southern Lebanon area, in clear violation of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Following the strike, Defense Minister Israel Katz issued a statement accusing the president of Lebanon of dragging his feet. Katz said the Iranian-backed terror proxy is playing with fire and called on the Lebanese government to uphold its commitment to disarm Hezbollah and remove it from southern Lebanon. According to the U.S.-brokered ceasefire agreement, Hezbollah must fully disarm and its terror forces pushed back to above the Litani River, both of which have yet to be implemented by the Lebanese government and army. Katz reiterated that Israel will continue its policy of maximum enforcement and said this might even intensify, adding that Israel will not allow any threat to the residents of the north. And speaking this weekend at a conference in Manama, Bahrain, U.S. Special Envoy to Lebanon and Syria, Thomas Barrack, said on Saturday that despite the setbacks, Hezbollah still remains a major threat to the state of Israel. He questioned who really runs Lebanon, Hezbollah or the Lebanese government. This is what he had to say.
So what's the state? The state is Hezbollah. You go south, Hezbollah gives you water, gives you an education, gives you a stipend, has 40,000 soldiers. LAF, Lebanese Armed Forces, has 60,000 soldiers. The only problem is the Hezbollah soldiers make $2,200 a month. The LAF soldiers make $275 a month. The Hezbollah soldiers have 15,000, 20,000 rockets and missiles. The LAF soldiers are driving old Jeeps, some AK-47s. So which army is which? What's happening?
And not far from Israel's northern border, Iraqi militias backed by the Islamic Republic of Iran are currently arming at a rapid speed. Reports are now suggesting that the IDF and Mossad are preparing for an October 7th-style rocket attack from Iraqi territory. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Sources from the IDF's Northern Command told Walla that the IDF and Mossad are preparing for a developing threat against Israel from Iranian-backed militias in Iraq. The Islamic Republic of Iran have been investing significant resources in arming and training Islamic terrorist militias in the region. But it was a reported visit of the IRGC commander Ismail Qani to Iraq that raised significant awareness of an imminent attack. Reports are suggesting that the main method of attack would likely involve launching missiles and drones from Iraqi territory, following a pattern similar to the one used during the Israel-Hamas war against Israel's home front. A secondary option could be a ground maneuver beginning in Iraq, moving through Syria, and potentially reaching the Israel-Jordan border. Israel is reportedly monitoring activity of the militias in Iraq, such as weapons smuggling and suspicious activity. Now all that's left is playing the waiting game. Should Iraqi terrorists attack Israel, Israel's security forces should be ready.
And the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, announced today that Tehran will rebuild its nuclear facilities. Speaking to a state media during a visit to the country's atomic energy organization, Pezeshkian said it would do so with greater strength. He maintained, however, that the nuclear program is for purely civilian purposes. In June, Israel and the United States bombed Iran's nuclear facilities, with U.S. President Trump saying that the country's nuclear program has been totally obliterated. Yet despite this, the regime seems determined to rebuild not only its nuclear program, but its terror proxies as well. And so joining us now with more on all of these latest developments in the region is Dr. Nir Baum's researcher at the Department for Conflict Resolution at Tel Aviv University. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
So Israel, of course, has a ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza, a ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the other sort of Iranian-backed proxies, the Houthis, Iraqi militias, have so far halted their attacks on Israel for now. But it does seem as though the threats are still very much present despite all of Israel's achievements. I mean, what's your assessment of this?
Well, the Iranians have not attempted to stop their armed struggle, their ideological struggle, and their attempts to complete what they call the Islamic Revolution of Iran, which targets the United States and targets Israel. They have lost some of the influence of their near proxies in the region because of Israel's assertive action in Lebanon and in Gaza. But they still have assets. You've seen that the Houthis in Yemen have continued until, as you've said, they have halted, temporarily some of their activities in the context of the ceasefire, and they're using this time to make sure they are arming additional proxies and additional militias. This is the Iranian weapon against Israel. It has not put to rest, and next time when we're going to have a round of conflicts, there's a very good chance we will meet these militias. One of them, Kataib Hezbollah, is the same militia that until very recently had held an Israeli researcher, Elizabeth Chorkov, as a hostage. So none of it had stopped, and I have not heard the Iranians say that despite the fact that they were bombed by the United States or by Israel, they're going to stop their armed struggle. I think that's what you've just said with the latest statement from the president, Pezeshkian. No, it's the contrary. They will continue.
And so I do want to break it down sort of by country. I mean, what's happening in Lebanon now? You know, according to the U.S. envoy, we heard Hezbollah remains very much a threat. I mean, what is the status of this Iranian proxy now and, of course, the state of the ceasefire in Lebanon?
Well, the ceasefire continues. It's somewhat fragile. We've had a report a few days ago that since the beginning of the ceasefire, the IDF identified 330 Hezbollah activists that were dismantled with kinetic activities. And that means that the IDF continues to monitor violation of the ceasefire, act when needed. And that's, it is becoming clear that there is not a real motivation for the Hezbollah to move away from the south of Lebanon. There is some motivation in Lebanon, and there's certainly an American push to make sure that the move to dismantle Hezbollah will happen. But for that, more needs to happen in Lebanon, and as we've just heard a few minutes ago with the comments of Special Envoy Thomas Barak, it's not so easy when Hezbollah still has more abilities, more advanced weapons, and to some degree more resources, although that is beginning to change in compared to the Lebanese armed forces. Mm-hmm. The challenge is to continue to, on the one hand, help the Lebanese armed forces do their work in dismantle Hezbollah, and at the same time making sure that the Lebanese armed forces are not going to be penetrated by Hezbollah, so that the influence of Hezbollah in Iran will be kept in Lebanon. This is something that was tried a few times in the past. We now have another window, a real window to do it. Hezbollah is not going to disarm willingly, so there needs to be a more significant push.
And, you know, the report of the militias in Iraq is alarming. But, you know, at the end of the day, sort of despite the U.S. and Israeli attacks on the Islamic regime itself, it's slowly and surely rebuilding itself, rebuilding its terror proxies. You know, are we going to see or likely to see another round of fighting then at the end of the day between Israel and possibly the United States and the Islamic regime?
Well, are we going to see another round of fighting in Gaza if we're looking at the trajectory of the past, at least? We have seen that after every operation, even significant operations, when the issue, the ceasefire did not sort the actual core problem, Hamas in that sense, it stayed in touch, it stayed on the ground. It meant that there would be another round of escalation. And we've seen now, after the ceasefire, that we still have clashes because, again, Hamas is still there. Can that trajectory be the same in Iran? We have been fighting Iran directly in last June, but we have been fighting Iran for over a decade, mainly in Syria, a little bit in a number of other fronts, and in Lebanon. We had taken the first general of the IRGC in Iran. We've taken them in Syria in 2015 already. That's already been a direct war.
All right, well, there is certainly no shortage of threats here in Israel. Dr. Nir Baums, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Good to be here.
And moving on, the alleged abuse by IDF soldiers at the Sde Teiman prison caused major headlines around the world last year after a tape was leaked to the press purporting to show abuses of Palestinian terrorists. Only the tape may have been doctored, and the leak came from the military prosecutor herself. All the details of this outrageous story in the following report. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday slammed disgraced military advocate general Major General Ifat Tomer Yerushalmi, calling her actions perhaps the most severe public relations attack that the State of Israel has experienced since its establishment. Speaking at the start of the weekly cabinet meeting, Netanyahu called for an independent external investigation into her actions. Tomer Yerushalmi resigned from her post as the top military lawyer after new evidence came to light that she was the person responsible for leaking a video of IDF soldiers allegedly committing abuses against Palestinian terrorists to the press. The video, which is now said to have been doctored, caused immense damage to the image of the IDF and the State of Israel worldwide. In her resignation letter, Tomer Yerushalmi admitted to leaking the tape and said her decision to do so was made following what she called a smear campaign against the military prosecution. In her letter, she did not address false statements that were given to the High Court of Justice and to then Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who has publicly accused her of lying to him over the incident. She also did not address the military's internal probe of this alleged leak, which seems to have been a fake effort conducted by her own office to probe her own leak. Meanwhile, the IDF reservists from Force 100 who were accused of this alleged abuse held a press conference today and said they had been unfairly accused, insisting on their innocence and adding they would not get a fair trial because of the leaked tape. Speaking to the press, they said they hope they would win their court case because, quote, the truth is on our side. And moving on, over Halloween, the FBI foiled an ISIS-inspired terror plot supposed to be carried out over the spooky holiday. While the Halloween nightmare was averted, detectives discovered online chat rooms that promoted the terror act. ILTV's Devo Klein has the story.
2 men were arrested on Friday in Michigan, and 3 others were detained for questioning after the FBI said it foiled a planned terror attack for Halloween weekend. FBI agents raided a house in Dearborn, Michigan, a Detroit suburb once nicknamed the, quote, jihad capital of America, due to its incredibly high presence of Muslim communities. But the operation, according to the FBI, was more complex than a simple raid. After being anonymously tipped off, FBI undercover agents joined an online chat room where they discovered extreme rhetoric inciting violence and terror. The suspects wrote online that they went to a shooting range to practice changing magazines quickly. It was clear from the chat room that no clear plan was outlined for the attack. It was only mentioned that it would be modeled after ISIS attacks that they had seen on the internet. But it was the code Pumpkin Day that told the FBI that the attack was going to be carried out on Halloween night. The raids and arrests followed, and what could have been a nightmare scenario during the spookiest night of the year was averted.
And our final story tonight, more than 2,700 people from over 20 countries gathered in Hollywood, Florida, as Jewish National Fund USA launched its annual global conference for Israel. The event highlighted the organization's circles of impact, representing the transformative work on the ground in Israel that touches every community from the north to the south. The conference aimed to unify the global Jewish community in a spirit of hope, resilience, and action. From former hostages to international allies, speakers shared powerful personal testimonies, showcased rebuilding efforts across Israel, and called for a worldwide movement of truth, faith, and freedom. ILTV's Deva Klein has more.
The Jewish National Fund USA Global Conference kicked off with an extraordinary opening expo, where the organization proudly showcased local Israeli craftsmanship, including handmade jewelry, clothing, and art, to support Israeli businesses and entrepreneurs. Guests were then ushered to the main hall, where Jewish National Fund USA President Deb Lust Zaluda and CEO Russell F. Robinson emphasized the theme of radical hope, marking the end of captivity for living hostages and the beginning of rebuilding efforts. After sharing his personal story and connection to Israel and the Jewish people, JNF USA CEO Russell Robinson had one message to the people of the organization and to the people of the world.
So let's shout out to the world without any hesitation. Israel makes the world a better place.
Robinson honored the men and women who make the organization's operations possible, saying that they are, quote, the secret sauce. Former hostage Omer Shem Tov took to the stage alongside his parents, expressing heartfelt gratitude to the Jewish National Fund USA community for their support. His powerful words, "I stand here as a free man," generated a standing ovation.
My name is Omer Shem Tov and I'm a free man.
The many projects of Jewish National Fund USA were on full display, including the launch of the Emergence of a New North initiative in northern Israel. This visionary project showcased high-tech incubators, the Galilee Culinary Institute, new housing developments, and the delivery of bomb shelters to farmers on the front lines. All part of Jewish National Fund USA's ongoing efforts to revitalize Israel's north and restore security, stability, and resilience to its communities. Jewish National Fund USA positions itself not just as a fundraising organization, but as a global movement of builders, defenders, and visionaries. The message to attendees was clear: visit Israel, engage with its communities, support tangible development, and stand united with Israel against hate and misinformation.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 19 degrees Celsius or 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see cloudy skies alongside steady temperatures with highs of 30 degrees Celsius or 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. And you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Gravelazi. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.